That's Ron K. If anybody don't know Ron K, that's Ron K. Ron K from Doylestown. Thank you, Chris. And at this time, it's my honor and a privilege to be standing up here to introduce our second speaker here at the Dr. Bob's Speaker Dinner. And I'd like everybody to give a warm welcome to Kent C. from Sandusky, Ohio.
We're going to do a little praying before we get started. I'm going to say a short prayer, and after that, would you join me in the serenity prayer? Dear God, use me tonight as an instrument of thy will. Speak through me, so whatever results that you desire here tonight will be accomplished. In all things, thy will, not mine, be done. And God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. November 1937, 855 Ardmore Avenue in Akron, Ohio. Bill Wilson is in town visiting Dr. Bob. The purpose of that visit was to discuss the split with New York from the Oxford group and some ideas Bill had for going forward in that condition. While they were there, Bill and Doc sat in the living room, and an amazing thing took place that is really, I believe, the catalyst for what we know in Alcoholics Anonymous today. There's a lot of moments that took place in our history, but this is one of great significance, because what they did, 1937, they sat there and they counted the number of people sober between New York, Akron, and they had a guy in Cleveland, and the number was over 40. As the writing said, as Bill said, 40 hopeless cases of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he said what occurred in the room when they finished that count was akin to what had happened to him in Towns Hospital, that he and Dr. Bob both felt the light enter the room. And Bill said they realized that something new had entered the world. And it was what we now know today as the Program of Recovery of Alcoholics Anonymous. It wasn't written yet. Steps weren't numbered yet, right? But all of the actions were there. Dr. Bob's wife, Ann, came into the room. And I'm going to mention Ann Smith. Bill Wilson called Ann Smith the mother of AA. A lot of people think about Ann and they think about Lois Wilson and they think about Al-Anon. And certainly what Al-Anon is today, you can look at Ann Smith. Ann Smith was doing that in Akron when no one was sober yet in New York except Wilson. But Ann is much more than that, isn't she? Because Ann Smith's contributions don't begin or end with Al-Anon. Ann Smith's contribution directly affects the program of recovery practiced today in Alcoholics Anonymous. Morning prayer and meditation and guidance. Service to others. Reliance upon God. Surrender. All of these things formalized by Ann. Ann the early AAs used to come to that house at 6 o'clock in the morning and sit in the living room with Ann Smith. And she would lead them in morning guidance, prayer, and meditation. She would then read to them she used the upper room, some things like that. And then she would invite them to discuss. That was your first discussion meeting. That was your first discussion meeting. And that took place in the living room at 855 Ardmore Avenue. But after the counting of noses in 1937, Dr. Bob and Bill realized that something new had come into the world, and they needed to find a way to get the message out, to get it beyond New York, to get it beyond Akron, to get it beyond Cleveland. And out of all the ideas, there was 3 of them, and I think you guys probably know what they were, right? Paid missionaries, a chain of hospitals, both of which Dr. Bob was highly skeptical of, right? And of course, a book. Now, Doc was in favor of a book, right? They gathered the first 18 members in Akron together, 18 men. And they presented these ideas. Those 18 almost unanimously were not in favor of any of them. But Dr. Bob believed in Bill, and Bill believed in Doc. And the 2 of them, and I don't know how long that meeting lasted, but they got back to back, and they argued until a vote was taken. I believe the vote ended 10-8. 10 for, 8 against, that's how close it was, to allow Bill to go back to New York and to begin. They told Bill, you go back to New York, there's money there. We're in the middle of the Depression. This is Akron, there ain't nothing here, right? And Bill to go back to New York and raise money, and things began. And the only thing that bore fruit out of that meeting was the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the reason that we're all here today. So 855 Ardmore Avenue. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of Dr. Bob's Home, I want to thank this committee. I want to thank everybody in this room for the love, service, and support that you show for Dr. Bob's Home. I am the Vice Chairman of the Board of Trustees of Dr. Bob's Home. And I get to get out and do what I'm doing right now a lot, but I don't get to do it that much in this capacity, so this is very cool. To tell you how much we thank you. That's your house. That house belongs to you. It does not belong to us. We simply are the caretakers. For those of you who have not been to Akron, I don't care if you come Founders Day or not, just come to Akron. Come to your house. Come so we can tell you welcome home. Come so you can sit in that living room. Come so we can take you upstairs to Sue's bedroom so you can get on your knees. That was the surrender room where the first members of Alcoholics Anonymous took the 3rd step in this program. Come and let us do that. Let me know. I'll come take you myself. When I was new, Doc Cassini in Cleveland, right, was the chairman of the board at Dr. Bob's, and Doc was a friend of my first sponsor. And I'd have somebody in town at 10 o'clock at night, right? I'm in Sandusky. I'm an hour and 15 minutes from Akron. Doc's in Cleveland. He's 40 minutes from Akron. And I called Doc at 10 o'clock on a Friday night and say, I got some people from California showed up in my home group. Would you come open up the house? Right? And Cassini, if anybody in here knew Doc Cassini, I won't use the language that he used, but he'd always do it, right? And today I do the same thing. If you call me, right, I'll come, because that's your house. I'm going to say this and then I'm going to move on. The house is real personal to me. Dr. Bob was my sponsor, my first sponsor. I was talking to Kenny today in Cleveland, and Kenny was sponsored by Ted R., Gus P., and Neil C. Neil got sober at 20 years old, and I was telling somebody before the meeting, and he was a freak. Most people came in AA at that time, this was 1946, were between 35 and 50 years old. And he was 20 years old and he was living in an alley, and he said, what do you got to do to get into this thing called AA? And so they said, well, we'll give you a chance, but we're going to watch you close. Neil died, he was 59 years sober. And I used to go to Thursday men's, and I used to see call me Smiley, because the first 5 years in AA, I didn't crack a grin no place. And he'd say, come sit with me, Smiley, right? And understand something, my home group in Sandusky began as an Oxford group meeting in 1938, where I come, that's how we started. You read about it in Dr. Bob and the Good Old Times in Sandusky, Ohio. That's my home group. Them old guys, they never talked about none of this stuff. I didn't know they even knew these people. I mean, I was new in AA. I thought these was like people in the Bible, right? They've been dead like 2,000 years, right? This stuff been going on forever, right? So I'm sober a year, and my girlfriend, who later became my wife, now my ex-wife, she's sober longer than me, and if you meet Kathy, she'll tell you that. She took me to Dr. Bob's house. And I saw the first person I ever saw in AA whose eyes sparkled. His name was Joe G. And Joe G and his wife Pearl took care of the home in those days. This is 1992 when this took place. And I just fell in love with the house. And my mother was dying of cancer at that time. And a lot of, I'll talk about some of that later, but anyway, I used to drive to Akron. I worked midnights. I'd get off at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'd drive to Akron, and I would be sitting there when he came to open up the house, and he'd say, do you need the house today? And I'd go, yep. And so I went to visit the house, and I was just lit up, right? And I went to Thursday men's in Cleveland, and I sat next to Neil, and my sponsor was sitting on my left. And I'm thinking, I got something on Neil now because I've been to Dr. Bob's house. He's old. He ain't never been nowhere. So I looked at Neil, and I said, guess where I went? He go, where'd you go? I said, I went to Dr. Bob's house. He said, did you now? I said, yeah. I said, it's really great there, Neil. I said, have you ever been there? He said, uh-huh. I said, did you like it? And his eyes got wet. And he said, Dr. Bob and Ann were like my mom and dad. See, he was the same age as their son, who had gone off to the service. And he used to go there and stay the night with them. I sit next to him. He was my sponsor, but I ain't know none of this. Because the guys didn't talk about it. What they did is they lived the things that they were taught. And isn't that what this is really about? It's not about who you know. It's not about where you've been. Those guys, they didn't have nothing. They didn't have nothing. I said to Neil one time, I said, you guys didn't hardly have any meetings. How did you stay sober? And he looked at me and he said something, and I'm going to share it with you. He looked at me and he said, we prayed like crazy. And I'll leave you with that. We prayed like crazy. There wasn't meetings around the clock. There wasn't literature. There wasn't none of that. We prayed like crazy. As vice chairman of the board, and I've been a managing trustee at that home now for probably 8 or 9 years. We did a structural interior restoration in 2010. As Scott read earlier, we got the house next door. If you came to Dr. Bob's house prior to 1994, it was like a museum. There was stuff everywhere. And there was no room for anything. So getting the house next door, we made that the archive house. If you come to Dr. Bob's home today, and you walk in the front door, what it looks like is this is what their house would look like if Dr. Bob and Ann were up the street at a meeting. And they'd be right back. That's what it looks like today. So 859, the house next door, has been very important for us. And our offices are there, and we have a film room there, and a wonderful gift shop. So please come see us. I've had a lot of blessings in Alcoholics Anonymous, too numerous to count, not quantifiable. And I think most of you know what I mean by that. But it is an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to be able to serve that home and the legacy which it represents. Because out of that house came what I'm looking at in this room right now. So again, on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Dr. Bob's home. I want to say thank you, Scott, the committee, and to all of you for your kindness, your love, your generosity, and your service. One of the things about them early guys is they were very, very simple. And that's what I love most about AA is how simple it is. Once I was here for a minute and I figured out how, I said to my first sponsor, I said, Bill, I said, why is AA so simple? He said, because they knew you were coming. I love AA. I'm like the little boy who came home from his first day of school and his daddy met him at the door and greeted him and said, well, did you learn anything? And the little boy said, apparently not. They told me I had to come back tomorrow. And that's what it's been like for me in Alcoholics Anonymous. But the simplicity of Alcoholics Anonymous is the beauty of it. There's a line in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I ain't a guy that quotes chapters and pages. This is not an exercise in memorization. It's a design for living. But there's a passage in the book that bottom lines the simplicity of Alcoholics Anonymous for me, and what it says is simply this: remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people, it is dependent upon his relationship with God. The single most important fact in my life, and the only reason I'm standing here or anywhere else tonight, is that I got a power in my life that I choose to call God, who does for me one day at a time what I could never do for myself. If I had the power to quit drinking on my own, I'd have never come to AA. Why should I? I didn't come here because I was bored. I didn't come here because I was lonely. I didn't come here because I was looking for a girlfriend. I came here because I was powerless over alcohol and my life had become unmanageable, and I couldn't even tell you that when I got here. Right? And that's the reason that I always pray before I introduce myself from behind the podium at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, is to keep me reminded and grounded and centered in the truth. I ain't here because of me. Left to my own devices, I would have surely destroyed myself years ago. The reason that I'm here is because of a God of my understanding and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's the reason that I always pray before I introduce myself. It keeps me reminded of two things I believe are vital and crucial to me staying here. First and foremost, the reason I'm in Bristol tonight is to do God's will, not mine. And it also serves to remind me that He is in charge here tonight. And as always, thank God, I am not. Good evening, Bristol. My name is Ken Coleman. I'm alcoholic. When I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, I came here with no AA etiquette. I didn't know what an open meeting was. I didn't know what a closed meeting was. I didn't know what a sponsor was. I didn't know what a home group was. I didn't know a big book from a Rand McNally Atlas when I walked up in here. I want y'all to understand something. I remember what it's like to be new. I remember what it's like to walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and not know a single solitary living soul. And when I came up in here, every other word I said had the word mother wrapped around it. I didn't come here from Sunday school. I knew nothing of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I came into AA with the skill set. I'm a street guy. I came here with the skill set of a street guy. How do you stay alive in the street? I'll tell you how you stay alive in the street, by doing two things: watching and listening. Right? And that's what I came up in here. And I came up here and I started watching and I started listening to y'all. Right? And right off the top, I saw two very distinct groups of people in Alcoholics Anonymous. People who were staying sober one day at a time continuously, and people who were not. Right? Now, anywhere you go in Alcoholics Anonymous, you're going to see that. And I'm not throwing shade at the people who have, some of our best members don't get this the first time. What I'm doing to you is sharing with you my experience. I saw people who were staying sober. I saw people who were not. I've stood behind podiums all over the world in Alcoholics Anonymous. At this point in my life, I've seen it everywhere that I've been. Now, I said this is a simple program, so being a simple guy, I asked myself, well, what are these people who are staying sober doing that these people who are not staying sober not doing, right? And so I saw some things right away. The people who weren't staying sober, they was in and out, in and out, in and out. Every time they came back in from being out, they looked worse than the last time they came back in from being out. I didn't see nobody come back in here passing out $100 bills and driving a new BMW and talking about how good it was out there, right? Restless, irritable, discontented. They talked of terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. We'll call them group 1. Group 2, you've been at this event or any AA meeting, you'll see the group 2 people in action. They make coffee, they set up the tables and chairs, they set out the literature, they greet people at the door, they talk about God, big book, steps, spirituality, helping others, and enjoying life sober. We'll call them group 2. Now, I am no rocket scientist, as my story's gonna prove, but it sure looked to me like these group 2 people got a better deal than these group 1 people. Let's keep this simple, right? So what are these group 2 people doing? Well, they got some things in common. They got something called a sponsor. Now, I used to play softball for Cronin's Tavern. They was our sponsor. And I got a lot of beer and clothes out of that deal, so I thought, well, maybe this AA ain't so bad, right? So I started looking for a sponsor, and y'all sat me down and told me that a sponsor is somebody who has working knowledge and experience with the 12 steps as outlined by the founders in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, who is willing to take the time to sit down with me and share with me the program of recovery, the black print on the white page in the blue book, right? And just as importantly, in my opinion, even more importantly, is a living demonstration of those principles in their life, who can show me what my life can be like if I do what they do. Notice that I said working knowledge and experience, not book knowledge and experience. I came here with a college degree. Reading is not my problem. I don't know how to live sober. I have sponsorship in Alcoholics Anonymous today. I'm sponsored by Bob D. in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was raised in Alcoholics Anonymous by the late Bill Finley in Lorain, Ohio, and Kenny Bombalicki in Cleveland, both of whom were sponsored by men who were sponsored by Dr. Bob. What I tell you about the sponsorship that I've been blessed with, it is sponsorship as much by example as it is, but anytime I talk to any of the 3 men who have sponsored me in Alcoholics Anonymous, never once has one of them said to me, "Where you going tonight?" What they've done is they've told me where they're going tonight. The power of example in here. My first sponsor, Bill, told me, "I'm going to train your feet to move against your head." He said, "Son, recovery is in your feet. It is not in your head." He said, as a matter of fact, anytime you're in a room alone, all your enemies are there. And he was referring to my thing. To this day, almost 25 years later, I'll be sitting on my couch, Scott, and I'll be thinking, man, I ain't going to that Monday night meeting tonight. I just came home from a conference. I went to 9 meetings in 3 days. And while I'm doing that, I'm getting my keys and moving. Because my sponsor trained my feet against my head. My head will kill me, my feet will save me. My head will kill me, my feet will save me. Right? So I have a sponsor in Alcoholics Anonymous today. I sponsor men in Alcoholics Anonymous today. I do not have sponsees in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not gathering and parading around sick people. I sponsor sponsors in AA. I sponsor sponsors in AA. And when you come and ask me for help, I will give you everything that I have, right? What does working with others say? Nothing. Circle the word nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. If nothing is going to ensure immunity from drinking, then you better start getting ready, right, to share this thing with somebody else. And if you're not willing to do that, if it's just for you, you really ought to get somebody else, because you have a real hard time with me. Another thing that people had in common, they had something called a home group. I have a home group today. It's the Venice group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Sandusky, Ohio. I said earlier, we've been around since 1938. My group ain't the best group in the world. It ain't the worst group in the world. My group's just an AA group. One of the things my first sponsor taught me when I came here is, son, it's okay to stop competing now. Prior to Alcoholics Anonymous, everything in my life was lived on a better than or less than basis, and it keeps me separated, right? Anytime I'm better than or less than, I'm never a part of, right? In Alcoholics Anonymous, anything that separates me from you as better than or less than is going to kill me. is going to kill me. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. My group ain't the best group in the world. It ain't the worst group in the world. It's the best group for me to be a member of, and I hope yours is the best for you. That don't make my group better than yours or yours better than mine. God don't love me more than he loves you, and he don't love you more than he loves me. I love, there's a little guy at home, Mark, who says, ain't it great just to be a member of the herd? Ain't it great for once in my life just to be a member of the herd? My home group, I tell you a little quick story. It's a funny story. When I got my first sponsor, and that was Bill and Kenny, it was Thursday. They gave me until Friday to get a home group. I was 3 months without alcohol. I won't use the word sober. A friend of mine used to call it sobriety. And they told me I had to get a home group. I'm like, really? Well, that narrows the field. I only got one day. So I joined the Venice group, and I signed the book, and there's a guy there sitting, Herb. Herb came in the 40s. Herb looked at me and said, we ain't got no interest in your autograph. He said, we want your service. He threw some keys on the table. He said, those are the keys to the coffee locker. We want you here next week at 6 o'clock. This was an 8:30 meeting. 6 o'clock. To make the coffee, set up the tables and chairs, and put out the literature. I looked at this guy like he had 3 heads. I said, how long am I going to have to do that? He looked at me and started grinning. He said, we'll get back to you. Right. 3 years later, I asked him again, how long am I going to do that? Now, there's a small problem with this. If anybody in here is new, roll with me for a minute. There's a small problem with this. It's a very small problem, but it's a problem. I don't know how to make coffee. I never drank coffee. But I can't tell you that I don't know how to make coffee, because at 3 months sober, I'm all outside. I ain't inside. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous looking for outside solutions to a spiritual malady. So what I think of me is based on what I think you think of me. Is anybody following me? And one of the things a new person ain't going to do is let you know that they don't know. Right? I'd rather die. Right? So for the next 6 nights, I do not sleep. Because it's the coffee. I work at Ford Motor Company. I'm on the line working. I'm picturing people drinking the coffee, grabbing their throats and dying, right? I'm going to kill the whole meeting, right? So finally, Friday comes. I show up at the church at 6 o'clock. There's them Cadillacs and Lincolns, because that's what they drove. I walk in, there's them 4 old guys, all of them from the 40s there. They said, the first thing I thought, they don't trust me. Of course they didn't. I wasn't trustworthy, right? I set out the tables and chairs. I slowly put out the literature. And now it's coffee time. It was a big meeting. We had 200 cuppers. Now, I have a college education, and I'm going to prove my mother wrong right now. My mother said I was living proof that a person could get a college degree and no education. But on the inside of a 100 cupper, there's a number 100 and a line. I know how much water to put in there. I went to college. So I put the water in that bad boy. Now I got that basket in my hand. That's the moment of truth. Old Herb is sitting there at the end of the table. He said, come here for a minute, Kent. I walked over. I got this basket in my hands, right? And he said, Kent, I don't know about you. He said, but when I make a 100 cupper, he said, I like to put the coffee right about that line in the basket. He said, how do you do it? I said, I do it just like that, Herb. I put it right to that line right there in the basket. Is everybody following me? They knew I didn't know. How could I? And how could they expect? Do you understand that? But they never made me feel less than. They never made me feel like, stupid. I don't know, never. If I come to your home group, is that how you treat new people? If I come to your home group and a new guy walks in, or a girl walks in that meeting, and an hour later they walk out and I call them over to my car and ask them, what did you find in there? What would they tell me? Pat on the back, keep coming back, here's your paper. What would they find? Just a rhetorical question. Guy come to my first sponsor told me when somebody raised their hand that knew at your home group, Like a shark. That's fresh blood in the water. Go get him. Guy raised his hand a couple of weeks ago in my home group. I had to rescue him. And I loved it. Me guys was going to tear the clothes off this guy, trying to get at him. I really don't want to go down this road. I'm going to say this real quick. This fellowship enjoyed an astronomical rate of success when it began. And the doorway to Alcoholics Anonymous in the 1930s, 1940s, you were hospitalized. You were taken to the hospital by an AA member. On 4 successive days, you were visited by 2 AA members per day who simply shared with you their experience. No solution, just experience. What are they trying to do? Establish identification. Ain't that what our book does? It's exactly the way the book is laid out. Look at your book. Establish identification. Now we get to day 5, and there's this tall, thin doctor in Akron. He comes to see you. And he sits down at the end of your bed, and he says, "What do you think, young fella?" And the person would begin to describe what was going on with them using the terms they've been hearing all week. Y'all did that for me when I got here. You gave voice to things that were going on inside of me that I didn't have the ability to yet verbalize. I couldn't tell you that I'm powerless over alcohol and my life is unmanageable. I couldn't tell you that I have an obsession to drink that'll override or overcome any thinking that I can raise as a defense against it. I couldn't tell you that I go to the bar and I, honest to God, I'm only going to have a beer and cash my check. And I don't come home until Sunday and I ain't got no money left. And I've been doing that for 15 years and I can't explain. See, I didn't understand phenomenon of craving. You gave voice to what was going on inside of me. And so Dr. Bob said that the guys would start to use what they'd been hearing all week. And he would say, well, you want to do something about it? Guy would take his 3rd step. When that guy got out of the hospital, the guy who brought him there was his sponsor. The guys who he had heard were members of his group. Now he got a support group. When they took him to the meeting, his first meeting, they said, this is your home group and this is your job. That was at a person's first AA meeting. Is everybody following me? So what we know today to be those things that work, sponsor, big book and steps, home group, service, the guy had him at his first meeting. Is there any wonder that 50% got sober at once? 20% or 25% after a little trouble, and some more came back. We talking 80, 85, 90, whatever. One of the things at my home group is we understand that that is not the door to AA today. And when a new person comes into our meeting, what are we doing to replicate the experience of 1935 when this thing worked the way that it did? I do a whole workshop on that, and I ain't going to do it tonight, and I don't know why I went there, but I did. Okay? I was born in the city of Sandusky, Ohio. I was the second of 3 boys. I'd raised in a Christian home. I had as fine a mother and father that have ever graced this earth. I'm the son of Pete and Evelyn Coleman. My mother was the president of Ohio Baptist Women's Convention. All them famous people you see on TV in religion and civil rights, them people been in my house. My mother was the highest ranking woman in Chrysler Corporation in the 1960s and 1970s. My mother was a power. My mother walked into the room, the lights got twice as bright. And that is the truth. And I made that woman my enemy. My father was the commissioner of the youth football and baseball leagues. My father was a decorated veteran of the Korean War, and I'm not talking about my father was in the woods in Korea. Purple Heart, Bronze, all that, letters of commendation. My father worked at General Motors. My mother worked at Chrysler. I'm retired from Ford. And there was a lot of craziness in the house, but we had really nice cars. Anyway, we had spoiled kids coming up. Everything that we wanted that was within reason, we got. Anything that we wanted that was not within reason, and they said no, there was another person that lived in our house. Her name was our grandmother. And the word no was not in her vocabulary. She just slipped it to us behind her back. That's the way that I was raised. $100 tennis shoes in the early 1970s. When I went off to college, I peeled a sticker out of a window of a brand new car and drove off. That's the kind of mom and dad that I had. We were not sent to church, we were taken to church. You know, Bill Wilson in the 12 and 12 calls the steps a set of principles spiritual in nature. I was introduced to spiritually principled living before I went to kindergarten. In our house, they told us honesty is the best policy. A real man is always honest with himself and other people. In my house, maybe in your house, we got automatic whoopings when we got caught lying. Did that happen in anybody else's house in here? That is step one. The principle of step one is honesty. We learned it at the end of a hickory stick. My mother called me in the living room. I'm 7 years old. She said, Kitty, I'm concerned about you. Contrary to what you seem to believe, the sun don't rise when you wake up and set when you go to bed. She said, look out the window. What do you see? Sky, grass, people, dogs, cats, cars. She said, you think they just popped up out of nowhere? She said, there's a power that's greater than you that made all this, and all you have to do is be willing to believe that step two. In our house, they said, if you'll carry it a step further and make a decision to put your life in the hands of the power that created all this, in my house, they called that power God. They said you will always have what you need no matter what happens outside or around you. They was telling us the answer is inside, not outside, step three. In our house, they told us, anytime you got a problem, no matter how bad you think it is, if you knew following me, come talk to us about it. A problem shared is a problem half solved. You're only as sick as your secrets. Anybody ever heard that? That's steps 4 and 5. My mother used to say the biggest room in a human being's life is the room for improvement. If you can make B's, you can make A's. And if you'll ask the power that created all this to help you improve in any area of your life, the power will always do so because the power is good. That's what the power does. That's step 6 and 7. In our house, they told us anytime you hurt, harm, or wrong, somebody else go make right the wrong you done. Your time, give it. Your own apology, make it. Your own money, pay it. Clean up your mess. That's what responsible people do. Anybody ever heard that before? That's steps 8 and 9. My mother used to say you can never go forward in this life if you don't know where you are today and what you need to work on to get wherever it is you want to go. I read a book by Socrates when I was in high school, and he said the unexamined life is a waste. Step 10. Our grandmother said to us when we were little boys, you want to know the secret to having a good day? Grandma's going to tell you. When you wake up in the morning, slide out of the bed onto your knees, say one word, please. As you go through the day and you don't know what to do, just ask the power that created all of this to help you. And at night before you get back into bed, hit your knees again, say 2 words, thank you, conscious contact with God, step 11. And in my house, they told us the most important thing that we could do was not acquire money and material things. It was to be of service to others. We were taught to follow the golden rule. Talk to folk the way you want to be talked to. Treat folk the way you want to be treated. Offer to share what you have with others before you have your own. Respect your elders. Be of service to your fellow man. Step 12. When I got on the bus to go to kindergarten, I was already armed with a set of principles, spiritual in nature, that I recognized in a very short time and year as the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I bet you a whole lot of y'all was taught them same things. For our new friends here tonight, spiritually principled living did not start in Akron in 1935. Those principles are ancient, and there's a lot of people out there who live like that every single day. And check this out, they don't expect a pat on the back for it either. Alcoholics Anonymous is the only place in the world. I got a 45-year-old man sitting at my dining room table, and I say, look, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. Tomorrow, I want you to do something nice for somebody. And if you tell anybody, it doesn't count. Such is the depth of the selfishness and self-centeredness. I love the meetings at home, because you'll hear this in a meeting sometime. You ever heard this? Boy, them earth people out there sure could use what we got in here. Where do you think we got it? Read your AA history, for God's sake. I was raised in a house of people. So if you knew it here, you're probably thinking, well, gee, Ken, if you had all that before you went off to school, what are you doing speaking at an AA meeting tonight? I can tell you why, and I bet you know why too, don't you? I've never done any of it. I talked about it a lot. You ever be down at the bar room, be some drunk in there quoting scripture? That was me. I'll be down Brownlee's Tavern on Friday night, as always, right? Every Friday night down Brownlee's, somebody had a breakdown. Usually because they was going to jail, losing their job, or getting divorced, because that's what we did down to Brownlee's. And Kid would stagger over with a drink in his hand and say something like this. Luke, chapter 5, verses 11 to 17. I'm giving spiritual guidance down to Brownlee's Tavern. And I didn't stop there. I get marital advice down Brownlee. I had never had a wife, but I didn't see how that made a difference. With my life savings laying on the bar, I was financial counselor down Brownlee's. My daddy called me a walking encyclopedia of perfectly useless information. Because none of it was born of my experience. I am a parrot. I go around and repeat things, right, that seem to get approval for other people. I did that coming in AA. I bet you almost everybody here did. You hear something at a meeting and everybody pats somebody on the back, you file it away. The next day you go to a meeting, you make sure the person who said it ain't there. You throw it out, keep coming back behind it and claim it as your own experience. And don't tell me you ain't done it. As a parent. I was down at the Easy Does It Club one day. Now, not too many people survive the Easy Does It Club. Y'all know what some of these clubs are like, right? And the guy down at the Easy Does It Club said, oh, I had a good time out there drinking. And everybody patted him on the back. I didn't realize that was because most of them were still drinking, right? But he got approval. See, I was addicted to approval long before I picked up a drink. Anybody know what I'm talking about? There's something in me that's wanting. I call it a spiritual deficiency. So I filed that away. Next day I went over to Port Clinton Nooners and I threw that out. Boy, I had a good time out there drinking. Now there was sober people at this meeting. And there was a man at that meeting, his name was Jim Redmond, God rest his soul. He died 53 years sober. Jim Redmond, and here's the thing that upset me about this the most. It was not his turn to share. Jim Redmond sitting in the back of the room, he goes, really? Had a good time out there, did you? He said, well, if we brought your mother, your father, the girl you live with, your neighbors, your co-workers, your employer, and your creditors in here, and we sat them all down and said, you know, Ken had a really good time out there drinking. What kind of time did you guys have? What do you think they'd say? I said, I don't want to have that meeting. I said, I never looked at it that way. He said, I know you've never looked at it that way because you're so full of you can't see 2 inches in front of your face. I'm not a guy that stands behind the podium and glorifies the disease that nearly took my life and brought pain, suffering, heartache, and misery into the peoples who gave me life and who loved me until they were sicker than I was. I don't stand up here and glorify that. You know what? I came up in the 70s. It was the disco era. I was a privileged young man. I went to 1 billion concerts. I danced under the disco lights. Trust me. I did all that. You know what? I don't even remember none of it, really. Anybody here relate to that? See, alcoholism, would love to plant seeds in my mind that there was something redeeming about that period in my life. And it's very patient. See, my disease, you ever hear this? Your disease is out in the parking lot doing push-ups. Anybody ever heard that? If your disease is out in the parking lot doing push-ups, I got a solution for you. Lock the door. Mind centers in my mind. It ain't in the parking lot. And it would love to plant those kind. Let me tell you something. There are no conditions that exist under which I can safely take a drink. There was nothing ridiculous. From the day, let me tell you something. Before I picked up a drink of alcohol, there was no hollering and screaming in our home. Before I picked up a drink of alcohol, there were no sleepless nights in our home. Before I picked up a drink of alcohol, there were no lawyers and courts and I'm ashamed to go to church and you're not the son we raised. None of that existed in our home. And I want to run around here and talk about, boy, I had a good time. I ain't talking about you. You can say that all you want. I'm going to tell you the truth. I see this thing for what it is. Alcoholism is a taker. It is not a giver. And from the day I picked it up to the day I put it down, it did nothing but take from me. Read Bill's story. That's Kent's story. Nothing real spectacular about my childhood, perhaps outside the fact it lasted about 35 years. Some of that was in here. As a kid, I was shy, insecure, and afraid. Scared of girls, very I was thinking about it the other day. Self-concerned. I'm a guy who's all outside. So, I'm conscious of everything that I say, every move that I make, because I think you're watching me and you're listening to everything I say. You find out later in life, nobody was watching you or listening to you. They were too busy thinking about themselves, right? But that's how I was. There's something in me, right? My first real drink of choice was my older brother. I come from a football family. I'm from Ohio. My father from Western Pennsylvania. My father played at West Virginia State University. My Uncle Bo played at Penn State University. I had two cousins that played in the National Football League for over 10 years. That's what my family do. We do football on Saturdays and Sundays in front of 100,000 people. That's what we raised to do. There's no bearskin rug pictures of the Coleman brothers. There's us in a diaper in a three-point stance in the middle of the living room. And that's a true story. That was my daddy. My big brother was my first drink of choice. I followed him everywhere that he went. I had ease and comfort in his shadow. Because my brother was a guy who could come out and play. My brother was not afraid to live. My brother was not afraid to die. He was one of them people it seemed to me life was easy. He walked into the room, he was a girl magnet. He had what they call perfect pitch. He could pick up a guitar, you could put a record on and play it, and he could play it note for note, probably better than what you just heard it. I'd never forget the first time he did that. There was a song called The Thrill Is Gone by B.B. King. And he put that on a 45 and played it, and he picked up his guitar and he leaned his head back and he closed his eyes, and note for note he did that. And I'll never forget the look on my mother's face. She said, "Oh my God." My brother was 6'2", he weighed 215 pounds when he was 16 years old. He could run a 4.40 on a cinder track. And he was a tailback. He was a big running back. But in Ohio, we like big running backs. And we had a coach in Columbus, his name was Woody Hayes. And Woody Hayes came to our home, and my brother agreed to go play football at Ohio State University. Before his senior year, we used to scrimmage a team called the Massillon Tigers. ESPN calls that the #1 high school football program in the country. We were number 3. We scrimmaged the Massillon Tigers, and late in the scrimmage, he had 4 or 5 runs that day over 50 yards. And late in the scrimmage, he fell funny. Guy hit him low, guy hit him, he just fell funny. Wasn't nothing different than any other play. Walked to the sidelines, collapsed, was not breathing, went into a coma that Saturday night, 9 hours of brain surgery on Monday. He died Wednesday, September the 5th, 1972. And I want you to understand something. I had ease and comfort in his shadow. They used to call me Brian's little brother. When I was with my brother, nobody expected me to do or say anything, because Kent can't come out and play. See, my brother had that guitar, I had a piano. And I used to stand and I used to look at that piano and I used to say, if y'all knew, follow me for a minute. One of these days, I'm going to play that thing. Does anybody here know what I'm talking about? See, but there's something in me that it's not free. There's something in me that in him he was free. He wasn't concerned with what you thought about him. He was comfortable being himself. And I don't know why I was the way that I was, and I don't really care. Right? If the car's in the ditch, we can stand around all day talking about how the car got in the ditch. Somebody need to get a record and figure out how to get the car out the ditch. I'm a solution-oriented guy. I ain't a problem-oriented guy. All I can tell you is that is how it was. After my brother's gone, that did not make me alcoholic. Them things happen every day. There's tragedies. I did not blame God. I did not stop believing that there was a God. Here's what did happen to me. I always thought that God answers prayer, because that's what they told me when I was little. And I prayed for 4 straight days, almost without sleep, for my brother to live, and my brother did not live. And I walked away from that, and I thought to myself, God answers prayers, but he don't really answer mine. Okay? And I'm all outside. I ain't got nothing on the inside. So I start looking, right? The way that I look at the world when I'm 13 years old, I'm standing on the street corner with guys I've known since I was 2. Drinking beer, smoking weed, climbing into that girl's bedroom windows in the middle of the night are the topics of conversation. I'm batting 0, 0, 0. I got a mother that don't play none of that. I ain't doing none of that. I wouldn't have knew what it was if it would have slapped me. But I don't let them know that. I tell them I'm doing those things. I've been those places. I know those people. At 13 years old, I'll become a liar, a fake, and a phony. I start living the kind of life where somebody walk up to you, you flipping the pages of your mind, trying to remember what you told them the last time you saw them. Do anybody here know what I'm talking about? I'm living a lie. I'm 13 years old. I'm willing to compromise everything that I ever was taught that was true and good for my life. Honesty, integrity, all of that, to gain your acceptance. I'm looking for something to feel this thing that's on the inside of me that seems just... nothing just seems to fill it. I made a decision when I was 14 years old that as soon as I got old enough, I wasn't going to church no more. And I was going to call my own shots in life. Here's how I viewed life from the time I was 14 to the time I was 32 until I came in Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's my view of life. Any and everything and everybody in this world, I look at through the same pair of glasses. What is it that I can get from you to make me feel better? What is it that you can do for me? What is it that situation, what is it that job, what is it that girl, what is it that car, what is it that you can do for me? That's how I view everything in the world. And I'm a guy who begins to try to control and manipulate the people, places, and things in my life, right? To satisfy what Bill Wilson called those basic instincts: security, sex, companionship, right? All those things. And that's how I live my life. Now, there's a small problem with that. My first sponsor called that being general manager of the universe. There's a small problem with that. The universe refuses to cooperate, right? And as a result of that, I become even more restless, irritable, discontented, and afraid. And I live in this cycle, this endless cycle. Terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. At the age of 14, I picked up a drink of alcohol. I got in the car with a guy whose life I lived in my head. I don't live in the real world with everybody else. This guy had a snazzy car, pocket full of money, ran around with the kind of girls I ran away from. We got in the car. He said, "Hey, Coleman, you want to get something to drink?" I had been warned about drink, and alcoholism does not run in my family. It gallops. And I had been told we do not do alcohol. Well, look at Junkie Ed, look at Junior. All of them died of cirrhosis. Both sides of my family are rife with alcoholism. If Johnny had said to me that day, "Let's go rob the carry out," I guarantee you I would have done it. That's a little sense of self I had, and those are the lengths I'm willing to go to try to address this thing in me that I don't seem to be able to satisfy. We bought 10 quarts of Sliss Malt Liquor Bull, dropped the convertible top on that beautiful Pontiac, cranked up the Parliament Funkadelic, and rolled through the streets of Sandusky and drank that beer. And I'm going to tell you something, my life changed. I've heard a lot of descriptions of what happens to that alcoholic on that first drunk. The best thing I can tell you is this: I went from shy, insecure, and afraid to bold, confident, suave, debonair, and absolutely fearless in about 20 minutes. We pulled behind the Derrick Apartments where the fellas hung out. I ain't said 5 words in public in the last 3 years. We pulled up, the music's blasting, people surround the car. I looked at Johnny, I said, "Turn that music down, because there's a few things I want to tell a few people present here this afternoon that I've been wanting to tell them for quite some time." I went around that circle of hoodlums, told each and every one of them what I thought of them and what they needed to do, in my opinion, to improve themselves. The reaction of the boys around the car, they leaning in the car, hugging me, saying, "See, I told you Coleman ain't all right. He's loosened up. He's drinking. He's one of us." Chuck Chamberlain used to talk about there is one problem which has encompassed all problems, and that's conscious separation from God and our fellows. There is but one solution in which has encompassed all solutions. That is conscious contact with God and our fellows. On that day, I made contact. On that day, I made contact. And what I realize is that when I drink, I change, and so do you. I connected a dot. Alcohol equals success, and you better believe I got it. We left from there, went over to the home of some of them girls he run around with, I run away from. I walked into that home like I was paying the mortgage. Never been over there in my life. I sat down at the dining room table. I made eye contact with the finest girl to graduate from Sandusky High School in his 178-year history. I had never even breathed in her direction, much less said hello. And I looked at her, and she looked up at me, and I said, "Come here." That's exactly how I said it, too. And she got up and started walking toward me, right? And the first thought that came into my mind, if any sane human being would have thought, if you weren't so shy and scared, look what you could have done just by speaking up. Here's the thought. If you knew, follow me. Here's the thought I had. If you had been drinking before now, look what you could have done. Is there anybody in here like me? Look what you've been missing. I immediately attributed it to drinking. Alcohol equals success. And you better believe I got it. Right? This is an honest program, I'll be honest with you tonight. When she got over there to me, I had a faintest idea what to do with her. I don't think that far ahead when I'm drinking. I watch a lot of TV though, I got a lot of time on my hands. On TV they go like this. So I did. And she sat down in my lap. And my life changed again. And the upshoot to this whole little story is on that day alcohol did for me what I could not or would not do for myself. This is the best I can describe it. For the first time in my life, I felt whole. And that's a very powerful thing. My spirit was affected. And alcohol ain't supposed to do that, God is. And I was gone. What happened the rest of that day is the rest of my drinking history, and then we can sober up and we can do the 50-50. Drink trouble, right? A lot of people come here, ain't been to jail, ain't been to prison, ain't been, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can get off the elevator at any floor. The price of admission in here is honesty, not the penitentiary, right? But that ain't my experience. If this here was a drink of alcohol, and I stood here tonight and took a drink, a cop would drop right out of this light and land in the middle of the floor. What happened the rest of that day is very simple. I went in a blackout. I have no idea what went on the next 4 or 5 hours. According to eyewitnesses at the house, I came in, threw up all over the house, and passed out. The next thing that I remember is my mom on that bedroom, you know how they are. Come on here, clean up this mess. You know you've been drinking. Blah, 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 blah. I staggered into the hallway in what later years would be my drinking uniform, my underwear. Father Pete used to say I had a hangover you could take out and look at. I'm dying. I go in the bathroom, I lock the door, she's still screaming in the hallway. I put my hands on the bathroom sink, I look through bloodshot eyes in the mirror, and you know what I said, don't you? Man, oh man, I cannot wait to do that again. Grounded for life is what was being discussed in the living room. I got grounded for life. I had a meeting with myself in the bathroom. Prior to AA, I love to have a meeting with myself. I have a meeting with myself. I can solve most everything. Go over in China, wherever it is. I can figure it out. If you knew, please get a sponsor. But I had a meeting with myself. This is what I came up with. Okay, kid, you got drunk? Yep. You got sick? Yep. And you got grounded for life. All these things are true. But the reason, kid, you got grounded for life is not because you got drunk. The reason you got grounded for life is because you got sick. Follow me if you're new. So what you got to do is learn how to drink without getting sick. Not drinking was never on the table. Is anybody following me? Why? Because Dr. Silkworth talked about it. Didn't he? The effect produced by alcohol. My problem ain't alcohol. In the doctor's opinion, it says, we're restless, irritable, and discontented. When am I restless, irritable, and discontented? Not when I'm drunk. I'm restless, irritable, and discontented when I'm sober. My problem is not alcohol. My problem is unbearable and untenable sobriety. I cannot live comfortably in my own skin. And alcohol gives me a sense of ease, comfort, well-being, and fearlessness. And it makes me go, and I was gone. That went on for almost the next 20 years. I'm not going to get into all the podium flash. I've been in a lot of trouble, 7 DUIs, felony drug and weapons charges. I dropped dead in 1984. I dropped dead of a heart attack doing what I do the way I do it. I like to kill my mom and daddy. I was 16 years old. I had a 1 o'clock curfew, came home at 4:30 in the morning. My mother was sitting on the couch with tears rolling down her face. And this is what she told me. She said, as your parents, we owe you a roof over your head, clothes on your back, food to eat, and an education. And buddy, we've done that. She said, but I got something that you can't have, Kenny, and that's my peace of mind. She said, you're going to the penitentiary or the cemetery, and I got a message for you. I ain't going with you. I'm done. I'm giving you to God. Go do what you want. I'm done. And this is what I said to my mom. I broke you. I broke you. And I want you to know something, Mom. I'm a little bit disappointed. You're such a spiritual giant. Because it wasn't even that damn hard. And I walked away. That's me at age 16. That's how I treated my mother. How you think I treated yours? Drank my way through college. I went to work at Ford because they had some things that I needed. I turned down a job at Procter & Gamble that would have made me a millionaire by the time I was 42 years old. And I took a job working on the line because if they got something at Ford I needed, it's called a union. And if you don't go to work like I don't go to work and you don't do nothing like I don't do nothing when I'm there, you need a union. I worked a midnight shift. You know, in Bill's story, watch how the worm turned on Bill, because it turned on me. I went to college. I graduated in the top 5% of the largest graduating class ever out of my high school. I was a national commended student. I was a straight A student. That's a gift from God. I wasn't challenged by school. School was easy for me. I was taking senior classes in the 10th grade, sleeping in class and getting straight A's. Thought one day, it just might be possible that I'll know everything. That didn't go over well at the house. I thought my dad was going to kill. My dad came up off the couch when I said that, and I was scared of my daddy. My daddy played football when they didn't have face masks. And he twitched to come up off that couch, and I broke for the screen door. And to the day my daddy died, I never asked him what he intended to do that day. He must have been thinking, look what we got in the house, I'm going to kill it. I take credit for anything good, anything bad. I blame you. I can't. And my life just gets prepared. At the end of my drinking, no baths, no showers. I got a liver that's distended about 7 inches. I drank old Granddad. Every time I drank 8-ounce water glasses. I take a swallow of Granddad. I cough all this white stuff up. My liver and my pancreas were ceasing to function. My eyes are as yellow as Crayola crayons. What I'm coughing up is pure alcohol. My body is now rejecting what it will no longer metabolize. I'm 32 years old. My mind is obsessed with. I'm 32 years old and I'm dying of alcoholism. How dark it is before the dawn. The last year of my drinking, went back to church. I used to sit up at night with a Bible in this hand and a Miller High Life in this hand. I could not shut it off. I got the booze out of the house. I quit hanging around them guys. I changed shifts at work. I read inspirational stuff. The road less traveled. And I'm dying. I used to sit up at night and write letters to my best drinking buddy in college and say, he's a doctor. His house is bigger than the Ramada I'm staying at. And I would write, Rich, what I'm telling you is lies, man. I'm not doing good up here. I'm dying and I don't know what to do and I don't know what's wrong with me and I don't want to live like this. I'd wake up and there were inventories. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd read that, I'd be horrified. I'd rip it up, flush it down the toilet and go get drunk. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? The last year, I just flat out gave up. I'm doing that oblivion drinking. There's no day, no night, no right, no wrong, no good, no evil, no God, no devil in my life. 3 most prominent words in my vocabulary are I don't care, and I'm in it. And that's a terrible place for a human being with a soul and the promise of life to be. I believe that's as far away from God as a human being can get. Came out of the pump lounge, it was Thursday night, got in the car, and I had what they call a moment of clarity or a moment of sanity. There's a guy, Six-Pack Charlie Kitchen in Cleveland, who said that's the moment when God paralyzes the liar in you long enough for you to see the truth. I got in the car, and for the first time in almost 20 years, my head cleared up. Here's what I saw. Ken, if you don't stop drinking, you're going to die. You better get some help because you can't do it by yourself, and you better do it now because you're running out of time. Out of nowhere. I went and called my buddy, the doctor. Best drinking buddy in college. I owed him about $5,000, hadn't paid him a dime. I didn't know if he'd take a call from me. His wife answered the phone. She said, "Richard is Kent." And that's exactly how she said it. And he got on the phone and I said, "Rich, it's your boy, man. I need some help." And he got quiet. And he said, "Man, I've been waiting for this call for 7 or 8 years. Pack a bag. Stay by the phone. I got you." When I get a call from the North Central Intergroup Office of Alcoholics Anonymous, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you know what I tell the other person on the end of the line, don't you? Pack a bag. Stay by the phone. I got you, baby. And for that, I am responsible. And I'm going to tell you something else. I got someplace to take you. One of the things that I require of the sponsors that I sponsor is that they have relationships with sober living homes, halfway houses, detox treatment facilities. From Toledo to Tokyo, baby. Call me. My first sponsor taught me you are to be a resource. Where can they sleep? Where can they get food? Where can they get shelter and clothing? When a man needs help, you start putting the things in his life that he's going to need. He's going to put me in treatment in Xenia, Ohio. He lived outside of Dayton. We went to school at Miami of Ohio. He was from Cincinnati. Next morning, we speeding down I-75, my brother and his wife in the front seat. I'm in the back seat with a case of Genesee beer. Now, I didn't know too much about treatment, but I had figured out on my own they wasn't serving no liquor down there. I got a couple of them cold Jennies in me as we sped down I-75, and this is the thought that came to me. If you knew, follow me. You know, I just may have overreacted here. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It ain't that bad, right? It ain't that bad. Yeah, I start my comeback tomorrow, right? What I did not know is that my father told my brother and his wife, "I give you $100 if you don't bring that tramp back here." That's a true story. My brother wanted the hun. He said, "Give me 2 hun and I'll turn around." I didn't have a dime. My mother had to buy me I worked at Ford Motor Company and did not have a car. Yes, it is possible. I worked at Ford Motor Company. I made enough money to take care of half the people in this room and take care of you well. I got paid on Friday morning at 7 a.m. and I'm broke by noon. Do anybody in here know what I'm talking about? We got down there, got to Richard's house. He drove me from Centerville to Xenia. I went to treatment at Green Memorial Hospital. One of them hospital treatments. I got a $30,000 big book of that joint. Richard drove me from Centerville to Xenia. He bought me a $250 for the trip. He said it was always your favorite. We pulled in the parking lot of Green Memorial Hospital. He put his car in park. He turned and looked at me. I had this much left in that quart. He said, "Go ahead, dog, finish that. And don't ask me how I know it, man." He said, "That's the last drink you're ever going to take." That was the 17th of May, 1992. I have not had another drop of alcohol or anything stronger than the aspirin since that day. That's because of God and y'all. That ain't got nothing to do with me. That's because Alcoholics Anonymous work. To the new people in here, that's my sobriety date. It's the only one I got. There are those of us who come here. Listen. Relapse. At home, this is what they do. You ever see this? They come in and they say, "I'm John Doe. I'm back. I've relapsed." And we clap because we're glad John Doe's still alive. A lot of people ain't surviving it today, are they? We're glad. But after the meeting, I'm going to go up to John and I'll say, "John, can I ask you a couple questions, baby?" He'll say, "Sure, Kent." "And John, you have a sponsor?" No. "Did you read the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous? Apply the steps to your life a day at a time to the best of your ability?" No. "Did you have a home group and a service commitment in Alcoholics Anonymous to try to help others?" No. "Well, John, could you ask me a question?" "Sure, Ken. What did you relapse from?" Is anybody listening to me? A relapse is a return to a prior condition. If the prior condition is untreated alcoholism and the treatment for alcoholism is a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, and you haven't applied these steps, you have not relapsed, you've continued to drink. We got people going out of here saying, I tried AA and it didn't work because they attended meetings. The 12th step does not say haven't had a spiritual awakening as a result of attendance. We have a program here. Is the program of recovery being presented at your home group? Is it being presented in our meeting? Because for that I am responsible. Bill Wilson said it is our number one priority to make an adequate presentation of the program of recovery to the newcomer. That is our number one priority. We got people coming in here saying it don't work. They haven't relapsed, they've continued to drink. Now, people who have a spiritual awakening, work the steps and stop doing stuff and drink again, yes, that is a relapse. Well, I spent 35 days in a 28-day treatment program. I volunteered to help the staff with some of the problem patients. That got me an extra week of treatment. The next day they brought me down to nurse's station where my enemy married a nurse who was sober 28 years in AA, hung a sign around my neck this big. It said, I am not a counselor. I had to wear it for a whole week. Yeah, everybody at treatment thought it was funny too. Right? 28 days was up. They cut my insurance off. They called up the Ford plant. They said, we don't think Ken's ready to leave the hospital. You know what they set up the Ford plant? We don't either. They actually wrote a check for me to stay another week. And I came home, and if you knew in here, I played a game. It's called Don't Drink, Go to Meetings, and Don't Do Nothing Else. If I put my arm through a window, cut an artery in my arm, I start bleeding all over the floor. I put a towel on my arm. I drive myself to the hospital. I sit in the emergency room. The doctor comes out and says, come on back, Mr. Coleman, we'll treat you now. I sit in the emergency room bleeding to death, look at the doctor and say, no, thank you, I'll just sit here. And I bleed to death in the emergency room. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the emergency room. I've been sitting in these meetings for almost 25 years now, and I've watched people die of untreated alcoholism before my very eyes who attend these meetings on a regular basis. The treatment for the disease I suffer from is a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, period. There's a lot of things that support that. Meetings, conferences and conventions, literature, service commitment, all of these things, right, support and facilitate the 12 steps in my life. They're not a substitute for them. And when I learned that, AA started to make sense to me. I went to 250 meetings in 3 months with no sponsor and ended up in the parking lot of Daly's Pub, vibrating. I wanted to drink so bad. And I'm thinking, what am I, some kind of freak? I go to 2 or 3 of these meetings every day, and I'm going to drink again. I said my first prayer in that car, 3 months sober. I ain't said a prayer yet. And it was a simple prayer. God, what am I doing wrong? Bam, like a lightning bolt. I got it. What are you doing right? If you go to that many meetings, you hear it every day. Get a sponsor, work the steps, read the book, get a home group, help others. I ain't do none of that. And instead of going into Daly's Pub, I turned the key in that ignition. It was Thursday night, and I went to the Compass Group looking for my first sponsor, Bill Finley, and him and Kenny Bombalecki. There was 500 people in that gymnasium every Thursday night. And that was the group that he started. It's called the Compass Group. And Bill sat in the back with his arms folded. And I walked in, and I walked straight to him. And they just grinned at me. And I said, will you help me? And this is what he told me. He said, I'll take you through the book the same way my sponsor did me. He said, I'll show you how I live these steps in my life. You'll run with me. He said, I want you to bury yourself knee deep. He said, no, I'll forget that. He said, I want you to bury yourself shoulder deep in this thing called AA so you can't teeter and fall. And I've been shoulder deep in AA from that day to this day. And I ran with Bill. Bill used to travel the world doing Big Book. I know some of y'all have heard his stuff. I was very, very blessed. I would call Bill and I would say, Bill, here's my list of grievances for the day. Right? I'd lead all the people I'm mad at and how I'd been mistreated at work, right? Here's what he would say to me. If you knew here, who you helping? What? Who am I helping? Listen, I need help. You're not listening. Let me tell you what he... And I'd read it again. And he'd say, who are you helping? Click. Now, one thing I knew about my first sponsor, and he sponsored a lot of guys that were 30 years sober at that time. And this is what they told me. When he hangs up, the conversation is over. Never call him back. Right? So I'm sitting there. Who you helping? See, what my sponsor was trying to get me to do was to live in the answer, because he knew that when I was focused on you and not me, and it was, it says in one of it starves my problems to death. I live in the solution, not in the problem. Listen, life is a series of things, isn't it? Life be life, right? And that's what he was trying to teach me. I made amends to my parents before they died. I got married, I was 3 years sober. I got divorced when I was 20 years sober. I moved to Las Vegas. Hey, you get divorced, you ought to move to Las Vegas. And I'd probably still be in Las Vegas, but my children, I was too far. My baby is still in high school now, and she wanted her daddy home, and her daddy wanted to come home. So I am back in Ohio until she graduates from high school. I got 2 more years, and I don't miss ball games. I don't miss dance recitals. I don't miss nothing. And my sponsor wouldn't let me make amends to my mother. He said, I want you to go in that house and be the kind of son that you've never been. And my mom was dying of bone cancer. I was living in a spot. I wasn't living in a home. And I couldn't stay sober there, and they knew it. And my daddy let me. I was barred from their house. I had stole $3,000 out of my father's safe. And they barred me from their home years before. And my mama saw me go to all them AA meetings. My mother saw me bring my first sponsees to her kitchen table and sit and open the big book and talk about God. My mama saw me put on the shirt and the tie and go speak at AA meetings when I didn't even have a suit. And when the time came, she was near the end, my sponsor said, okay, go make your direct. And it'll come from your spirit, not from your head. And I went to talk to my mom, and I had a big speech planned out, but the only thing that came out was, Mom, I'm sorry. Now, I used to tell my mother I was sorry all the time. She always had the same answer, we know you are, right? And but this time it came from my spirit, and what comes from the heart reaches the heart. And my mom looked at me and she said, I forgive you. And she said, Kenny, I want you to promise me you'll stay with those people in AA. They did for you what we could not. They were the answer to our prayer. And I promised her that I wouldn't have. My dad died. I was 17 years sober, nothing left on the table between me and the old man. I got 2 daughters now. Jordan is 16. Alyssa is 20. She married. She a junior at the University of Cincinnati. I'm here to serve. That's the only reason I was ever here. I worked at Ford. I ended up going back to school, getting an advanced degree in sobriety. I ended up in the world headquarters. I was material control advisor for service part distribution in North America when I retired. If you're new in here, from a drunken bum, sleeping in the bathroom, that's where God took. Don't talk to me about what can't happen here. But you got to participate in your own life and your own recovery. My life today is a life of service. I don't have all that stuff no more. I get my wife to the big old house, all that. That's for my kids. Y'all enjoy yourself. I ain't never been happier. I have a purpose today. It took me 20-some years in here to understand what my real purpose is. And it is to serve God and to serve you, and it's to love God and love you, and that's it, and that's all, and everything else I get is icing on the cake. That's it, that's all. When the last time you was at a funeral where they got up and talked about what a man did for himself? That will not be my legacy. My legacy is to serve, and I have a life that's rich and it's full, and I thank God for it. If I said anything to help anybody tonight, I want you to thank God, do not thank me. If I didn't say nothing to help you tonight, guess what? There's some more meetings tomorrow. God does not make too hard turns with those who seek him. God could and would. if he were sought. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then, and thank all of you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Ken. Let's have another round of applause for Ken for coming out. On behalf of the committee, I like to present Ken with this little token of appreciation that we appreciate, your service.